Samson Cherargei, the Senator for Nandi County, and Ruth Mbogo, the Director of the Young Kenyan Women Leaders. I want us to stay away from politics for a bit and get into matters education. There have been a lot of changes that have been made in the education sector, and now we are seeing this, the teachers now that have been posted in various schools, politicians in those specific areas against some of these transfers from the TSC. I want to start with you, Senator. I mean, is it even happening in your area?
No, I agree. Of course, these education reforms are welcome, and I think what we are looking at, and I think I like the idea that, of course, we have been having challenges of failure by most of the students, and it is very sad, but close to over 500,000 young people cannot or might not even manage to get into colleges or even university because of the pass mark. One thing I want to appreciate is because the education reforms is that they want to be more of practical and more looking at the strength of the child from the education system they want to introduce. And I think the syllabus should be that, because sometimes some of these things, if, for example, somebody gets to university and they do something to do anthropology or history of the nation, how does it help us in transforming the nation? So I want to agree that these reforms are necessary. Number two, it is very unfortunate. Of course, we agree, because some of the areas, even where I come from, you find some of the teachers have stayed in school, in some of the schools, 13 years, which I agree. When you become a public servant, you should be ready to live and work anywhere across this country. You can be coming from Nandi County but teaching in Garissa. You can be in Garissa and teaching in Luo Nyanza and vice versa. But because we have ethnicized most of our things, that's why you have seen the backlash. And it's unfortunate that the governor for Bungoma, I think Governor Wangamati, has been the forefront. He is the one who has leader to go and say we don't want to community, or you imagine that they were not. The fact that somebody is a principal, even if he's a principal of a day school and is transferred to be the principal of a national school, it doesn't mean he will perform less. Then let us allow the teachers that have been transferred the environment. It's very sad. I saw some MCAs also and I think the ministry has taken a position that this mass transfer was done in the child's best interest, so that we have that diversity. How do we kill ethnicity? If I cannot, as a teacher, agree to go and work in Coast, I come from Rift Valley, somebody from Coast, so that we appreciate the unique, so that we remove these stereotypes. Because sometimes, if you teach, if I teach in Nandi and I come from Nandi, you will not appreciate what somebody from Coast or from Luo Nyanza or from Central Kenya can do. Cite that we finish these stereotypes that normally spill over to ethnic profiling. So I think it is very unfortunate, and I hope the police will intervene and stop this jarade of chasing around the principals simply because you do not like them because of different ethnicity, because the schools they were coming from, which is very unfortunate.
Just finish.
Because all these principals have been trained, all teachers are the same. And therefore, let us allow them to go to the schools that the ministry and the TSC have transferred them for the betterment of our children.
Listening to Governor Wangamati just a short while ago, he's, one of the concerns he has is that they've taken the best of principals that are in his county and brought in people who come in from schools that have a mean grade of at least 5 point something, when the school is of mean grades of 9, 10.
No, I saw him, by the way. I saw him speaking
point?
to I think, a forum in Bungoma to principals and head teachers that had been recently transferred to his county. But when you look at this, the motivation behind such eviction is not based even on the MINSCO. It is just ethnic profile, because the two female head teachers they were just perceived to be coming from the regions that they think they can't work together. So the issue of MINSCO is not there, because when you transfer an ed, the principal does not make the MINSCO. It is the culture, the values, the institution itself, the institutional memory that is there, the structure, the teachers who are there, the board. It is not one principal who makes the results too. It is a concerted effort, even from the students themselves, from various stakeholders to parents, from board of management, and many other factors before you get the results. The principal, even if you get a principal of 11, going to some school somewhere in Nairobi here that is a day school, or maybe from Alliance or where they were getting a mean of 11, and he goes to a school where they are getting 5, by the fact that that person is becoming the principal does not make that day school, which has 5, to just come to 11. It means there is an organizational strength that needs to be harmonized. So I perceived, and I look at what the governor of Mangamati is trying to do, is just to ethnically profile some of the principals that are being sent to school, because they are not lesser principal than the other. Yeah. Even the principals, finally, even the principals that he says that they were the best, that school did not just start from mean of 9. They started from 4. Yes. So it means there can be a progressive change towards the achievement of academic excellence in those schools.
What are your thoughts?
I want to agree with him that, we are taking this matter too emotively, and I think the fact that we are having members of county assemblies from certain regions actually being involved in evicting these principals is highly archaic. I mean, that's such an archaic way of dealing with issues. First and foremost, because I understand that this new, they call it a delocalization policy. Yes. The policy that a head of a school is not supposed to be in a school for more than 9 years is something that has been planning. I mean, that has been in plans for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years, because this is a program that was approved in 2015. The policy was approved in 2015, I'm told, in consultation with the teachers and stakeholders, and they all agreed to it. And it actually was documented in the, Teachers' Code of Conduct. So it is something that has been going on, that has been in plans for the longest time possible. I don't like how reactionary we are as Kenyans, in the sense that when we are having critical discussions about massive changes on sectors that are very critical to the country, education being one of them, we never really pay attention. Our leaders never really want to be part of, the consultation processes, the discussion processes, when we are called to come and give critical suggestions as to whether we think. I'm sure the leaders were called and asked, what do you think about this delocalization policy? And if they were not called, they do have ministers who are in charge of education. Their ministers should have informed them earlier on that, in 2018 we are going to have this new policy that is going to roll out. And at that particular time, they should have presented these concerns. And maybe a proper mechanism would have been in place whereby if a principal is being transferred, it is not an arbitrary transfer from one school to the next without thinking about, as we are transferring this principal from this school to this other school, what are the dynamics? How well has this school been performing? What is if we assess the performance of this teacher, this head teacher that we are transferring, is he fit for the school that has been doing so well? Because then again, much as the senator says that, the presence of a principal in a school is not what will determine how well the school performs. We must agree that the leadership of the principal in a way has a great impact as to how the teachers will work, what kind of relations are going to take place in terms of teacher-parent association, and how the school is going to work, and eventually that translates to the results that the school is going to post. But then again, we have to understand that, we don't work in a society that has no rules, that has no structures. There is the Teachers Service Commission, where all these complaints should have been taken to. And as these leaders are participating in evicting these principals that have been appointed, have they really assessed that, the principal we are evicting, are we evicting him because of his second name? Because, so I think there is a lot at stake. There is so much consultation that needs to be done. I'm told that, I understand that NAT had expressed their concerns towards the end of last year, when the policy was, announced to be, when TSC announced that the policy would now be implemented this year. They expressed their concerns. My question is, how far did this expression of concerns go? Was it just, one of those public outcries that did not necessarily have a mechanism where they would sit with the Teachers Service Commission and have all these issues discussed?
All right.
Maybe
finally,
I forgot,
the last word,
forgot is that one is that there is a formal procedure on how to protest. And I think the NAT did agree that, and I think any public servant, and that is why it was important that if you are a public servant, there is a code of conduct where you live and work. Finally, I think the running of education is not a default function. So it is so sad that I happen to sit in devolution and intergovernmental relations committee in Senate. It is so sad that the MCAs and the governor wants to run education, and yet their role is just to run ECD. So they should be telling us how is ECD doing, like building classrooms and many. So let us allow, because they are interfering with the process that is already in place. And I want to agree that as she has said, that any decision or any performance of the school is a concerted effort. It is not just to wake up one day and just decide that the school gets mean grade, a particular mean, if it's a 9 or even 10 or less than 5. But we agree that education is a very critical component.
Yes.
And we have been having, I think Kenyans have been complaining that what happens to students who do not join Form 1? What happens to students who just finish Form 4 but did not get entry mark to get to colleges? Where are these young people?
Yes.
Where are they? So that is the big question. Now that we are having reforms of education that will allow now to at least make sure at least observe rate of 90%, such that the transition between from class A to Form 1 is even up to 90%.
All right.
The transition from tertiary college to university is at least 90%. I think that is the critical important thing that we should concentrate at Kenyans, so that as a young person I'm worried, where are these 500,000 plus who cannot get to university? Where are those people who did not get to Form 1 going? And I think that's a very important thing that we should think going forward as Kenyans.
All right, thank you very much, gentleman and lady, for joining us here on News Center today to just talk about some of the most important things that Kenyans are facing currently. Ruth Ambogo is the Director of Young Kenyan Women Leaders. Thank you for coming in. And of course, Senator Samson Cherargei from the county of Nandi. Always a pleasure to have you here on KTN News Center. Let's move to something else. The Acting Cabinet Secretary for